The world unlimited water speed record is the officially recognized fastest speed achieved by a waterborne vehicle. The current record of 511 kilometers per hour, 318 miles per hour, was achieved in 1978. From 1909 to 1927, the record was an unofficial listing from the organizers of powerboat races. In 1928, the record category was officially established. From 1930, the rules of the record stipulated that a craft must make 2 runs over a timed kilometer course in opposite directions, with the record being the average speed of the 2 runs. The record is currently ratified by the Union Internationale Motonautique, UIM, with an approximate fatality rate of 85 since 1940. The record is one of the sporting world's most hazardous competitions. Before 1910 Until 1911, the world water speed records were held by steam-powered, propeller-driven vehicles. 1885, Nathaniel Harashoff's Stiletto, 42.2 kilometers per hour, 26.2 miles per hour. 1893, William B. Cogswell's Ficene, 50.9 kilometers per hour, 31.6 miles per hour. 1897, Charles Algernon Parsons' Turbinia, 62.9 kilometers per hour, 39.1 miles per hour. 1903, Charles R. Flint's Arrow, 72.5 kilometers per hour, 45.06 miles per hour. 1910s In 1911, a 12 meters, 40 feet, stepped planing hull, Dixie IV, designed by Clinton Crane, became the first gasoline-powered vessel to break the water speed record. Beginning in 1908, Alexander Graham Bell and engineer Frederick W. Casey Baldwin began experimenting with powered watercraft. In 1919, with Baldwin piloting their HD-4 hydrofoil, a new world water speed record of 114.0 kilometers per hour, 70.86 miles per hour, was set on Brasdor Lake at Baddock, Nova Scotia. 1920s In 1920, Garfield Wood set a new water speed record of 74.870 miles per hour, 120.492 kilometers per hour, on the Detroit River, using a new boat called Miss America. In the following 12 years, Wood built 9 more Miss Americas and broke the record 5 times. Increased public interest generated by the speeds achieved by Wood and others led to an official speed record being ratified in 1928. The first person to try a record attempt was Wood's brother, George. On the 4th of September 1928, he drove Miss America 7 to 149.40 kilometers per hour, 92.8 miles per hour, on the Detroit River. In the next year, Garwood took the same boat up a waterway Indian Creek, Miami, and reached 149.86 kilometers per hour, 93.12 miles per hour. In 1930s Like the land speed record, the water record was destined to become a scrap for national honor between Britain and the USA. American success in setting records spurred Castrol Oil chairman Lord Wakefield to sponsor a project to bring the water record to Britain. Famed land speed racer and racing driver Sir Henry Segrave was hired to pilot a new boat, Miss England. Although the boat wasn't capable of beating Wood's Miss America, the British team did gain experience, which was put into an improved boat. Miss England 2 was powered by 2 Rolls-Royce aircraft engines and seemed capable of beating Wood's record. On the 13th of June 1930, Segrave piloted Miss England 2 to a new record of 158.94 kilometers per hour, 98.8 miles per hour, average speed during 2 runs on Windermere, in Britain's Lake District. Having set the record, Segrave set off on a 3rd run to try to improve the record further. Unfortunately, during the run, the boat struck an object in the water and capsized, with both Segrave and his co-driver receiving fatal injuries. Following Segrave's death, Miss England 2 was salvaged and repaired. Another racing driver, K. Don, was chosen as the new driver for 1931. However, during this time, Garwood recaptured the record for the U.S. at 164.41 kilometers per hour, 102.16 miles per hour. A month later on Lake Garda, Don got the record back with 177.387 kilometers per hour, 110.2 miles per hour. In February 1932, Wood responded, nudging the mark up by 1.6 kilometers per hour, 0.99 miles per hour. In response to the continued American challenge, the British team built a new boat, Miss England 3. The design was an evolution of the predecessor, with a squared-off stern and twin propellers being the main improvements. Don took the new boat to Loch Lomond, Scotland, on the 18th of July 1932, improved the record first to 188.985 kilometers per hour, 117.430 miles per hour, and then to 192.816 kilometers per hour, 119.810 miles per hour, on a second run. Determined to have the last word over his great rival, Garwood built another new Miss America. Miss America X was 12 meters long, powered by 4 supercharged Packard aeroplane engines. On the 20th of September 1932, Wood broke the 200 km/h barrier, driving his new boat to 200.943 km/h, 124.860 miles per hour. It would prove the end of an era. Don declined to attempt any further records, and Miss England 3 went to the National Maritime Museum in London, where it remains on display. Wood also opted to scale down his involvement in racing and returned to running his businesses. Somewhat ironically, both record breakers lived into their 90s. Wood died in 1971, Don in 1985. Boat design changes Wood's last record would be one of the final records for a conventional, single-keel boat. In June 1937, Malcolm Campbell, the world-famous land speed record breaker, drove Bluebird K3 to a new record of 203.31 km/h, 126.33 miles per hour, at Lake Maggiore. Compared to the massive Miss America X, K3 was a much more compact craft. It was 5 meters shorter and had one engine to X's 4. Despite his success, Campbell was unsatisfied by the relatively small increase in speed. He commissioned a new Bluebird to be built. Bluebird K4 was a three-pointer hydroplane. Unlike conventional powerboats, which have a single keel, with an indent, or step, cut from the bottom to reduce drag, a hydroplane has a concave base with 2 floats fitted to the front, and a third point at the rear of the hull. When the boat increases in speed, most of the hull lifts out of the water and runs on the 3 contact points. The positive effect is a reduction in drag and an increase in power-to-weight ratio. The boat is lighter as it doesn't need many engines to push it along. The downside is that the 3-pointer is much less stable than the single-keel boat. If the hydroplane's angle of attack is upset at speed, the craft can somersault into the air, or nosedive into the water. 1940s Campbell's new boat was a success. In 1939, on the eve of the Second World War, he took it to Coniston Water and increased his record by 18 km/h, 11 miles per hour, to 228.11 km/h, 141.74 miles per hour. The return of peace in 1945 brought with it a new form of power for the record breaker, the jet engine. Campbell immediately renovated Bluebird K4 with a de Havilland Goblin jet engine. The result was a curious-looking craft, whose shoe-like profile led to it being nicknamed the Coniston Slipper. The experiment with jet power was not a success and Campbell retired from record attempts. He died in 1948. 1950s. SLO Motion and Bluebird, proprietors to turbojets. On the 26th of June 1950, SLO Motion IV improved on Campbell's record by 29 km/h, 18 miles per hour. The boat was built by Seattle Chrysler dealer Stanley Sayers. The piston-engined boat was able to run at 260 km/h, 160 miles per hour, because its hull was designed to lift the top of the propellers out of water when running at high speed. This phenomenon, called prop riding, further reduced drag. In 1952, Sayers drove SLO Motion to 287.25 km/h, 178.49 miles per hour, a further 29 km/h, 18 miles per hour, increase on his previous record. The renewed American success persuaded Malcolm Campbell's son, Donald, who had already driven Bluebird K4 to within sight of his father's record, to make a further push for the record. However, the K4 was by now 12 years old, with a 20-year-old engine, and Campbell struggled to run at the speeds of the Seattle-built boat. In late 1951, K4 was written off when it suffered a structural failure at 270 km/h, 170 miles per hour, on Coniston Water. At this time, yet another land speed driver entered the fray. Englishman John Cobb was hoping to reach 320 km/h, 200 miles per hour, in his jet-powered Crusader. A radical design, the Crusader reversed the three-pointer design, placing the floats at the rear of the hull. On the 29th of September 1952, Cobb tried to beat the world record on Loch Ness, but, while traveling at an estimated speed of 338 km/h, 210 miles per hour, Crusader's front plane collapsed and the craft instantly disintegrated. Cobb was retrieved from the water but had already died of shock. 2 years later, on the 8th of October 1954, another man would die trying for the record. Italian textile magnates Mario Verga and Francesco Vitetta, responding to a prize offer of 5 million lire from the Italian Motorboat Federation to any Italian who broke the world record, built a sleek piston-engined hydroplane to claim the record. Named Laura 3, after Verga's daughter, the boat was fast but unstable. traveling across Lake Iseo, in northern Italy, at close to 306 km per hour, 190 miles per hour, Vergu lost control of Laura 3, and was thrown out into the water when the boat somersaulted. Like Cobb, he died of shock. Following Cobb's death, Donald Campbell started working on a new Bluebird, K7, a jet-powered hydroplane. Learning the many lessons from Cobb's ill-starred Crusader, K7 was designed as a classic three-pointer with sponsons forward alongside the cockpit. The 7.9 meters, 26 feet, long, 3 meters, 10 feet, wide, 2 meters, 5 feet, high, 2.5 long tons, 2.8 short tons, 2.5 t, craft was designed by Ken and Lewis Norris in 1953-54 and was completed in early 1955. It was powered by a Metropolitan Vickers barrel turbojet of 16 kilonewtons, 3,500 lbf, thrust. K7 was of all-metal construction and proved to have extremely high rigidity. Campbell and K7 set a new record of 325.60 km per hour, 202.32 miles per hour, on Ullswater in July 1955. Campbell and K7 went on to break the record a further 6 times over the next 9 years in the USA and England, Coniston Water, finally increasing it to 444.71 km per hour, 276.33 miles per hour, at Lake Dumbleyung in Western Australia in 1964. Donald Campbell thus became the most prolific water speed record breaker of all time. At this time the world speed record, 200.42 miles per hour, for piston-powered propeller-driven boats was held by the George Simons Miss U.S.I. at 322.54 km per hour, 200.42 miles per hour. This record was set at Guntersville, Alabama in 1962 by Roy Doobie and stood for 38 years. 1967 Donald Campbell arrived back at Coniston Water in November 1966. Bluebird K7 had been re-engined with a Bristol Siddeley Orpheus jet rated at 4,500 lbf, 20 kilonewtons, of thrust. His stated aim was to bump the record out of reach of the Americans, and push it beyond 300 miles per hour, 483 kilometers per hour. The new attempt suffered many setbacks, both mechanical and weather-related, and by the end of 1966, Campbell's existing 444 km per hour, 276 miles per hour record was still not broken. By the morning of the 4th of January 1967, mechanical problems with Bluebird had been solved and the still conditions seemed perfect. Bluebird K7 was over a decade old, and an American called Lee Taylor was threatening the record with a new boat, Hustler. The patriotic Campbell wanted a Briton to be the first to break 300 miles per hour, 480 km per hour. His first run across the lake gave the appearance of being untroubled and was fast. K7 averaged 475.2 km per hour, 295.3 miles per hour, and a new record seemed in sight. Campbell applied K7's water brake to slow the craft down from her peak speed of 507 km per hour, 315 miles per hour, clear of the measured kilometer to a speed around 350 km per hour, 220 miles per hour. The wake caused by the water brake at such high speeds was very large. Campbell immediately turned around at the end of the lake and began his return run. Bluebird came back on her return even faster, at around 512 km per hour, 318 miles per hour. Just as she entered the measured kilometer, Bluebird began to lose stability due to her unprecedented speed. Finally, 400 meters before the end of the kilometer, Bluebird's nose lifted beyond its critical pitch angle and she started to rise out of the water at a 45-degree angle. The boat took off, somersaulted and then plunged nose first into the lake, breaking up as she cartwheeled across the surface. Campbell was killed instantly. Prolonged searches over the next 2 weeks located the wreck, but it was not until May 2001 that Campbell's body was finally located and recovered. Campbell was laid to rest in the churchyard at Coniston on the 12th of September 2001. Lee Taylor, a Californian boat racer, had first tried for the record in April 1964. His boat Hustler was similar in design to Bluebird K7, being a jet hydroplane. During a test run on Lake Havasu, Taylor was unable to shut down the jet and crashed into the lakeside at over 200 km per hour, 100 miles per hour. Hustler was wrecked and Taylor was severely injured. He spent the following years recuperating and rebuilding his boat. On the 30th of June 1967, on Lake Guntersville, Taylor and Hustler tried for the record, but the wake of some spectators' boats disturbed the water, forcing Taylor to slow down his second run, and he came up 3.2 km per hour, 2 miles per hour, short. He tried again later the same day and succeeded in setting a new record of 459 km per hour, 285 miles per hour, 1970s to the present Until the 20th of November 1977 every official water speed record had been set by an American, Canadian, Irishman or Briton. That day Australian Ken Warby broke the Anglo-American domination when he piloted his Spirit of Australia to 464.46 kilometers per hour, 288.60 miles per hour, to beat Lee Taylor's record. Warby, who had built the craft in his backyard, used the publicity to find sponsorship to pay for improvements to the Spirit. On the 8th of October 1978, Warby traveled to Blowering Dam, Australia, and broke both the 480 kilometers per hour, 300 miles per hour, and 500 kilometers per hour barriers with an average speed of 511.12 kilometers per hour, 317.6 miles per hour. As he exited the course, his peak speed as measured on a radar gun was approximately 552 kilometers per hour, 345 miles per hour. Warby's record still stands as of the 14th of February 2015. There have only been 2 official attempts to break it, both resulting in the death of the driver. Lee Taylor tried to get the record back in 1980. Inspired by the land speed record cars Blue Flame and Budweiser Rocket, Taylor built a rocket-powered boat, Discovery 2. The 40-foot, 12 meters, long craft was a reverse 3-point design, similar to John Cobb's Crusader, albeit of much greater length. Originally Taylor tested the boat on Walker Lake in Nevada, but his backers demanded a more accessible location, so Taylor switched to Lake Tahoe. An attempt was set for the 13th of November 1980, but when conditions on the lake proved unfavorable, Taylor decided against trying for the record. Not wanting to disappoint the assembled spectators and media, he decided to do a test run instead. At 432 kilometers per hour, 270 miles per hour, Discovery 2 started to become unstable. It has been speculated that it may have hit a swell. Whatever the cause, the boat's unstable lateral oscillations caused the left float to collapse, sending the boat plunging into the water. The cockpit section with Taylor's body was recovered 3 days later. The cockpit had not floated as intended and Taylor drowned as a result. In 1989, Craig Arfins, son of Walt Arfins, builder of the world's first jet car, and nephew of famed record breaker Art Arfins, tried for the record in his all-composite fiberglass, Kevlar Rain X Challenger, but died when the hydroplane somersaulted at 483 kilometers per hour, 301.875 miles per hour. Current projects Despite the high fatality rate, the record is still coveted by boat enthusiasts and racers. Currently there are 4 major projects aiming for the record. Quicksilver The British Quicksilver project is managed by Nigel McKnight. The design was initially based on concepts for a rear sponsoned configuration by Ken Norris, who had worked with the Campbells on their Bluebird designs. As the project progressed, it became clear that a different concept would be required. Ken Norris left the Quicksilver project and the design of the boat changed to the final front sponson configuration in order to assure proper static and low-speed buoyancy and high-speed stability. Nigel McKnight has emphasized that though the design was changed significantly, much of Ken Norris's design remains. The design is of modular construction, with the main body consisting of a front section with a steel space frame incorporating the engine, a Rolls-Royce Spey Mk 101, and the rear section a monocoque extending to the tail. The front sponsons are also modules, one of which contains the driver. Current work includes sample testing of bonded structures to aid design of the horizontal struts that attach the sponsons to the main hull. This includes conducting test cycles with the samples fully submerged underwater. The current plan is to fit the rear hull section, stern module, followed by both sponsons in preparation for the first trials on water. In this initial waterborne form, the craft will be known as Quicksilver-1 and speeds will be limited to 200 miles per hour. American Challenge The American Challenge project has been spurred into action by the new challengers. The American Challenge project is a consortium of businessmen, engineers, and motorsport professionals focused on returning the world water speed record to the United States. The pilot, Russ Wicks, is currently known as the fastest American on water and holds the world record for the fastest propeller-driven boat. Aussie Spirit Ken Warby has built a successor to the Spirit of Australia. The new boat, Aussie Spirit, is of similar dimensions to Spirit of Australia and is powered by a Westinghouse J34 jet engine. K777 team for Great Britain The K777 team are a combination of engineers, boat racers, boat builders, gas turbine specialists and members of Windermere Boat Racing Club. They built a controversial visual copy of Donald Campbell's Bluebird K7, though during its sole public appearance on Coniston Water in 2011 it failed to plane. partially sank, and ultimately collapsed its air intake trunking. A test on Loch Ken, in southwest Scotland, in October 2014 was also unsuccessful. Although the boat did not sink, it was again unable to plane. Restoration of Bluebird K7 In 2001, Bluebird K7 was raised from Coniston Water by members of the Bluebird Project. Rush WSR Towards the end of 2011, Colin Johns of Windsor, New South Wales, Australia started his WSR project known as Rush WSR. The boat is nearing completion and is expecting to be in the water and undergoing testing at the end of 2012. The latest photos on John's Facebook page suggest the hull is nearing completion with engine and breakaway capsule still to be fitted. The design is a single-point Sanger similar to Lee Taylor's Hustler, built by Rich Hallett. She is also similar in appearance to Warby's Spirit of Australia. It is unclear at this stage whether she will have a T-tail-like Spirit. It is of fiberglass construction with laminated veneer lumber bearers and plywood bulkheads. She is to be powered by a single Westinghouse J34-48 jet engine from a North American T2 Buckeye rated at 3,400 lbf of dry thrust and with the addition of a custom-built afterburner. This is a similar class of engine to the J34 as used by Warby and Spirit of Australia. Blackbird WSR New Zealand's challenger for the world water speed record, piloted by Tony Millett, is 12.8 meters long and is powered by a General Electric J47-25 turbojet engine with 7,200 pounds thrust. Blackbird's attempt will be in 2016. D'Artagnan SP600 Daniel de Hemers is the Belgian challenger for the absolute water speed record. The SP600 is of full carbon composite construction and is powered by a Rolls-Royce Adore 104 turbojet engine. The boat will be under testing during the first semester of 2016. Record holders See also Blue Ribbon Speed Sailing Record List of vehicle speed records World Sailing Speed Record Council Notes References Fred Harris and Mike Rimmer 2001 Skimming the Surface Kevin Desmond 1996 The World Water Speed Record Batsford Leo Villa 1969 The Record Breakers Hamlin Bill Tuckey 2009 The World's Fastest Coffin on Water A Biography of Ken Warby External links Donald Campbell Bluebird and the Final Record Attempt Speed Record Club The Speed Record Club seeks to promote an informed and educated enthusiast identity, reporting accurately and impartially to the best of its ability on record-breaking engineering, events, attempts and history. World Water Speed Record WWSR Information upon World Water Speed Record and jet hydroplanes